that's fun. I like that opening. That's a good opening. Hiya. Welcome to the thing we call the stream. Okay, hi. Okay, Corbin dancing around the camera there. But hi, welcome to today. It's Tuesday, 3 Prompt Tuesday. So we're going to be plugging away on something. But I got a special treat for everybody, is that we got a new Corbin video. So while he's over here eating his mouse, we'll get that prepped up for you. Today's page is, the suggestion was, boy, oh boy, I got the memory of a fly. Subtle and incremental deception. And that came from Joel B. So this was a fun page. The subtle and incremental deception here is that she keeps cutting her hair, but lying to him about it. What? It's a different one, that's for sure. Hiya, Chris. Welcome aboard. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we did last Tuesday. So if people want to suggest a one of three words, one of the 3 words for a 3-word prompt, feel free to give us one. Last week, if you did it last week, give somebody else a chance, I guess. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do that. So if people want to throw suggestions out, you are more than welcome to do so, eh? Hey, Corb? Yeah. Okay, well, in a couple more minutes, I'll show the new Corbin video. He's just waiting for me to do it now. Hey, I'm Corbin. Anyways, so yeah, this was a lot of fun to do this page. I drew it straight on in marker, and you know, there's it's a little daunting. There's a challenge in drawing straight on with marker, but at the same time, it's done. As soon as you put the marks down, you're done. Good, move on. So there's a liberation in that. So that's kind of nice. So yes, sir. So I'm going through the pages to see what we're going to work on today. I don't have anything set up as yet, and I was trying to figure out, is there any 3-word prompts that I have not done? Because I think I've done everything that I had on backlog. I had a few on backlog, so yeah, you know, fun stuff. Hi, Miriam. Welcome aboard. Corbin, Miriam says hi. Okay. Oh, as today it's Halloween, we can use costumes. Okay, there's costumes. I'll put that down as our first word. Costumes. Woohoo! Good fun. Yeah, if you've already given a prompt, we can give other people a chance. But you know what? I don't care. If you're going to throw out a prompt, give us a prompt. Each person gets one, I guess. We'll start with that. And while people are thinking about prompts, let's. I got a special treat for you. Here we go. Brace yourselves. Corbin says good afternoon as well. Anything else you want to tell him? Yeah, he hopes you're having a good day. Okay, let's switch to the old Kambarooski. Hey, look at us. What are you doing? Can you see him? Corbin and I are sitting in the studio, hanging out, ready to get some work done. And how was your weekend? Did you have a good one? Yeah, he said it's all right. That's good. That's nice to hear. What did we do this weekend? I think his moving around is in order to signal that we moved the house around. No? Okay. Well. Okay. Well, there's our new Corbin video. He is ridiculous. He's a ridiculous cat, but we have fun. Okay, here we go. Here in Mexico. Hold on, so I'm going to move this monitors here. Just give me a second. Here in Mexico, there's a nun at an amusement park that got famous. She danced on top of a game dressed as the nun from the movie. It's been a popular costume in Mexico now. She's viral on Instagram. Is she a real nun? Depends on what kind of dancing it is. I don't know. Red Cross, I think Miriam suggested. So we'll write that one down. Okay. All right. So we'll start here. We got a couple to start with. Is there a preferred way to work? Also, I've got a couple of things done that I'm posting now on Patreon. And I've just got to color this bad boy, which is the latest of the Stephen pages. It's Stephen Goes to the Jamboree. So we'll be working on that. You know, all the fun. And boy, that'd be really interesting if it was a real nun. That'd be a whole different viral sensation, wouldn't it? All kinds of scandal. Whee! Anyways, okay. Costumes and Red Cross are our 2 words. I'll kick up the camera. Let me see. There we go. Costumes and Red Cross is what we've got so far. All right. Yeah. Let's get crack-a-lackin'. I have no idea what I'm going to do. So this is just for interest's sake. I work a pencil right down to the nub. And I got all these different pencil holders. This one actually even has a pencil sharpener embedded in the base of it. But because these pencils are, once you get a pencil that works for you, you don't want to just, give it up. So, right, Kyle? Yeah. So if it's possible to keep that longevity of that pencil in play, yeah, boy, oh boy, I highly recommend getting these little containers, or these little pencil containers that extend the life of it. This is built-in sharpener. So, exciting stuff, eh? Yeah, he thinks so. Okay, well, let's get drawing. Chris says, that is a small pencil. Do I need a pencil? I got lots of pencils. That's not the point. The point is to use them. Use them right up, right, bud? Is this yours? Okay, you got it? There you go. Don't throw it on the floor as soon as I give it to you. Okay. All right. I've also got some fun things that I'm thinking about. Is there ways that we can incorporate those? I have come across, as we were cleaning our entire house, we found these plastic letters and numbers in a baggie. We don't know what they're for, but this is an English word called too smello. It's where something smells too much. Not true, but maybe we should think about efficiency in our words like that. I don't know. Anyhow, I'm thinking of ways that we can incorporate this typeface into pages. So very exciting stuff. And then there's a couple little symbols and stuff like that. I think it's for some kind of calendar. It's not for you. All right. Okay, so add super glue and paste it on a longer one. You'll use all of it. I lost the pencils I lose pencils way before they arrived at that stage. I used to have a jar, a solid jar, and it was nothing but these, and just the little nubs right down, so that right where you couldn't sharpen it anymore. And I have a number of pencil extenders. This is so here's the one I have. This is another one, and this guy's almost done too. I've got complete green pencils. It's not the point. So I keep all sorts of little nub pencils around in the studio, especially when it's things like a Laurentian pencil crayon. I mean, the Laurentian ones are hard to replace. The white ones are just the greatest pencil crayons that you can use in your drawings. So, okay, what do we got? Costumes and Red Cross. All right, well, let's start with Halloween night. Why don't we start there? If this is our Halloween themed thing, and it's Halloween. Let's have a ball. So okay, yeah, I'll just start knocking on our first panel. Does it matter what circus I work on? If you want, well, that's a white cardstock here. Stonehenge. Save that. And then there's different colors of cardstock. If anybody sees something that comes up and they go, woohoo! All right, unless I find one first. So maybe that's a scary, scary blue. It's a scary, scary blue. Oh, yeah, there's some dark and spooky business. This is one of my grandkids. No. All right, I think we got one. These. Okay, well, I think we got one. I think we're going to go on this brown and well, different earth tones anyhow. We'll start with this guy. This is what we'll work on today. So if anybody else drops in, I'll have them suggest the third prompt, and we'll go from there. But in the meantime, let's get cracking. Now here comes some exciting times. Watch as I switch which nub pencil I have. Miriam says the spooky house tour is available in my channel. So anybody that gets an opportunity, please go check out Miriam's channel and see her spooky house that she's constructed over the last month. It's really cool. It's I've enjoyed watching it. Did you find your table? Miriam was looking for the table from it. All right, so switched out for a white nub. I got problems. Okay, so Halloween. We're on our Halloween kick. Corbin settled. That's good news. Come on, let's go. Let's go this way. Let's flip this over. Listening to popular hits from the 80s on my headphones right now. I did a new one. Oh my gosh. Well, that's, that's dedication. Then when you find it, you got two. Woo! All right, well, let's start with standard pumpkin. Why don't we? If it's our Halloween themed page. Yeah, Halloween theme. What are you going to dress as? I'm going to dress as a butt. No? Well, what are you going to dress as? Tell everybody. They're all curious. Any idea? What are you going to dress as? I guess keeping it a secret. Some people like to keep their costume secret until they can, showcase it dramatically. All right. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm off camera. I apologize for that. Okay, so here's our prompts. And I've started putting down a pumpkin can, and then we'll get cracking. Now, I did a page in the last year, I think, of, well, definitely in the last year. It's Halloween 58, where Michael Myers has Alzheimer's. And so when a bunch of kids come to the door and he holds up a spatula and realizes he's got the wrong thing, and he's searching through his house, but he can't figure out where he put his knife. And it's in the post that we've done. So if you take a look for it, you might get a kick out of that. So we've got 2 suggestions already for our 3 suggestions for today. If anybody's feeling like throwing the 3rd one down, you're more than welcome to do so. Okay, so we'll start in our first panel here with a pumpkin and right, pumpkin. That's what we call it. So I think what I'll do is I'll put a little And just lay out a wooden fence. Get down. No, leave the paintbrush alone. Rotten cat. Being rotten. And then we'll put a little hedgerow here, and then we'll just start to fill this out in a second. And then here's the steps for the front of the house. Is this helping? I think I might switch to a pen, just because this feels like it's just making extra steps. So if anybody's getting dressed up for Halloween, you want to tell everybody what you're going to be, feel free to do so. I will be dressed as a tall, scary thing that opens the door and gives children, a treat. And Miriam says, "No Halloween here." Well, that's unfortunate. Oh, that's, I guess, right. Yeah. So I'm just throwing in the front of this house, spooky house in the background. And we'll start fulfilling this a little bit. The new video of Corbin is fun to do. We did that this morning from the stream yesterday. And this was a moment that we'd had during the stream. And this morning Corbin said, "You know what would be fantastic to do is a short video today." I said, "What? What is that?" Me. He's an egomaniac, this cat. Okay, so here's the shapes of the house coming together. Here's the pumpkin form, and let's throw some watercolor in and see if this sticks, Corbin. What do you think? Yeah. It's a long stretch. My university is Catholic. No Halloween there, unfortunately. Miriam is going to do a thumbnail. Okay, cool. Great. I need to go to work in 40 minutes. Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys popping in and saying hi. Hanging out. It's fun. Corbin appreciates it, don't you, pal? How's that turning? Yeah, I think this will work. If I let it sit on top, it'll hold, but if I try to work it in, it's going to disappear. All right, I'm going to throw some deep greens in, and then we'll come in, throw some blacks over top. Streaming Thursday, November 2nd, Chris and Miriam are streaming together. Cool. That's very cool. Well, we'll have to get people to come and check that out. What are you guys going to be working on the 2nd? Miriam was talking about continuing another month-long challenge. That's what you were talking about yesterday. That's a good idea. It's an interesting idea for sure. Oh, it's going to be on Chris's channel. Good stuff. fun to work on top of the jelly plated paper. And the reason that I find that is that I don't really care what the image is for the most part, but because it gives this existing texture, because it gives these little existing bits of variations in color, I really enjoy utilizing that, incorporating that into whatever it is that I'm putting on with the composition for the one-page story. So I got to remember to make sure I have some more of these that I can use when I do this talk and on the 12th. So I'm throwing down this flat value over top of this house in the background, and with the perspective that I'm going to shake it up and add some texture and some interesting details. But my principal interest right now is to get down these basic values. So once I've got that going, then I'll sit down and start pulling out all of the key pieces of information, all the contrasting values. And I know that others will consider those things as relaying them in, and take a little more time and consideration to do that. And I'm a work on the fly guy, so I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff here. Miriam and Chris are streaming on Chris's channel November 2nd at 12. It's fantastic. If you get a chance, Miriam's going to do November pencil. That's fantastic. And Miriam also likes to find shapes and images in the abstraction. So, okay, so I've got some base values down, and so all I've got here with this first panel that I've started laying in is really, it's just because this page is made from 3 prompts of the Halloween theme here, I guess, and well, we still need our third one, but let's start with introducing people into this Halloween theme narrative. So that's kind of fun, you gotta take those little moments. So now I'm taking this jelly roll pen and I'm using it like a staining device by putting the tip down and then dragging it out, as opposed to letting it stay as a nice bright, punch of value. Dan's joining us. How you doing, Dan? What's November 2nd? It's Thursday. What time? Noon? Okay, well, let me think. Maybe we'll do that. That might be some fun in the sun there. I'll let you. I'll get an answer to you today. I just got to check scheduling and see what's going on. But that's very nice, yeah. And then, of course, we've had Miriam on before, and we have Chris on the 20th. So I'm just doing the same thing here. As soon as I put the pen down, I diffuse it. But you can still see how it still punches up. It's just not that big opaque value, right? Morning, afternoon. Morning, afternoon. Because if we're making Spooky House doesn't have bright, lots of bright colors on it, but there is need to get some emphasis on there. And then we'll come back in a second with the black pen that I started letting this in with. This is how Corbin has decided that I work, is that he doesn't care. All right, so I'm going to pull some contrasty shapes into the pumpkin as well. Gary says, "Happy Halloween, everybody! Happy Halloween, Gary." There's a third opening for a prompt suggestion today. If you haven't done one, let somebody get a shot at it. But people are welcome to suggest a one-word prompt for me to have to incorporate with these two for today's page. Says, "Hi, Gary." Okay, so we've got our haunted house coming into shape now. And we'll get our worn out, beat up sidewalk in here too. Just a fun little opening image, just to open the page up, just a little piece of narrative, visual narrative, right? I'm missing stuff, am I? Oh, happy spookies. Suggestion. Everyone keeps complimenting a person's costume, but they're actually in no-bring clothes, yet increasingly confused and angry. Okay, I'm going to write that down. Everyone is suggesting, I should have written it in the book. What is it again? Sorry. Complimenting. I don't know why I wrote down suggesting. But they're actually in their normal clothes. And getting increasingly confused and angry. Gary Hodges. There we go. All right. I wrote it down. Whoa! I'm putting it right there on the front of the book. We're going to put it inside soon. Right on. Thanks, Gary. I appreciate that. The opening still stands for the third prompt for today. So this Corbin's telling me nothing. And Gary, I'm watching from the balcony. Nice. I took our air conditioners out today. Well, yesterday. Because here comes the cold. All right. some panels on the house. Gary had a really funny post the other day, folks, if you want to check it out. It talks about going hiking and looking for the Dutchman's gold. Cracked me right up. Maybe he found some. Maybe he didn't. And if anybody wants to tell people what they're working on, feel free. Okay. No need to call the hotline. I think before the end of the stream, I'll show the new Corbin video again. Just to sate his... It's very narcissistic, Corbin. It's like, hey, show that video of me. What should we do a video of today? I said to him. He said, me! So, you know, you want to talk to somebody when your cat's talking to you and you're responding to that. So, okay. And as you come down with the additional washes, the pigment holds much better, I find. That's so nice. Maybe just because I'm looking at it wet. We'll see how it stays. Thrown a bunch of umber brown into the green just to push it down a little bit. Don't want to be too bright. What do we got? Nice. Yep. Miriam's doing the stream thumbnail. She's going to have a stream with Chris on Thursday. I'll be able to join them. Noon on Chris Killer's channel. All right. So just putting down the siding of this old the wooden paneling, I guess it would be. This old house. Knock a window out. All right. That's bad, Gary. Ask a big person when they're due. Oh my goodness. There's a great Brian Regan joke about that. He says, I'm not good with talking to people, and it's probably better when I don't, because I'm always going to say the wrong thing, like, you know, when's that baby due? What baby? The baby on the television. Like, it's really brilliantly funny. It's the take luck bit that he does. when you go to say take care, but then halfway through it, your brain decides to say, good luck instead. So it comes out as take luck. Take luck. Take it if you need some to take. And then he has a thing about, he always, whenever somebody says have a nice flight, it's like a default switch. He just automatically says you too. Okay, so hold this up. There we go. So there we are. That's better. Get the glare off of it. So there's our first panel coming together for our introduction to the story. And hopefully it's going to pick up a lot of these little textures that are left. See these little spatters in here. And some of these little discolorations. I like those. And it's the things that sort of stick out for us. That's the fun part, right? Now let's get this pumpkin done. And then away we go. Right, Corbin? Corbin says, "That's right, man. You betcha." He's a deep thinker, this Corbin. It's all kinds of things. That's what he's doing right now. That's what I like to believe. Some days I feel like when I look at him, I say, "How you doing, Corbin?" It's like he looks right through my soul and says, "I mean, how are we all doing when you think about it?" But it comes out as, "Wow." Now, because of his Pavlovian programming, I automatically feed him when he does that. So. All right, we got a nice solid orange on that. Has nobody got a third prompt idea for costumes, Red Cross, and what's our third word? Okay, so we've got our Halloween house started. I'm going to let this pumpkin dry for a second, but while I'm doing that, let's, did I have? I did. So I'm just coming in with a pencil. And pulling some little faces out of this patterning in the back. And we'll get our next panel going, which is going to be a bunch of kids in costumes. So. I think it's coming through there. No? Somebody with a cat. I guess it's a cat mask on. Mouse, whatever you want it to be. They're practically the same thing, cats and mice. It'd be a terrible thing to actually be. There you go. Maybe it's more like a bear. I don't know. See if I'm missing stuff here. Store-bought costume mask there. Put that. highlights in this young person's face. And let's put some outfits on them. So I try to think about the whole form, the whole image. And so when I'll put down little shapes for hands like that, it just sort of helps me connect the entirety of these different characters and so forth that I'm trying to draw down here at the house. So you see I put down a couple of lines, but what I'm actually doing in my head is building the entirety of the environment. I'm thinking, where's the house going to sit? Behind the fence, behind a pumpkin, and go from there, right? That's funny. As I'm drawing this, I'm thinking about, when we get kids to our house, they tend to bring suitcases and bags now, as opposed to the days of the little pumpkin-shaped containers. Or now Tim Hortons is trying to sell those things for egregiously high amounts of money. And there's a series of coffee shops here in Canada, and $8 or $9 Canadian for a cheap little plastic thing that the kid's going to have to empty into something else and fill right back up again immediately, and just because they were so tiny. We saw those the other day, but the majority of kids go around with like a pillowcase, expecting to fill a pillowcase with candy. That's terrifying. That's more candy than Corbin eats. So here we've got a couple little kids coming in here and, just trying to get our little image going for the trick-or-treaters. We can put a little piece of text up above that here's these kids trick-or-treating. Little monsters. And then there's the older kids that come out and, they've got maybe some random scary mask. And what are you? And my favorite is when they'll turn to the person beside them. And I like this when kids do this with their parents too. But they'll turn to the person beside them and go, who am I again? We know who brought the costumes. So just putting some silly shapes on the bear character. Little bag in the foreground here for the young lady to collect her candy in, and then we'll make a bucket, a pumpkin-faced bucket. In the person's hand. I'm looking forward to doing this live drawing event that's coming up soon. I'm not going to do anything different than what I'm doing here. It's just I'm in a room with a bunch of people, and I've got to do it directly in front of them, but then who cares? It's no problem. I might do a dance. I might do a tasty rap. Where'd you go? So I think I'll do purple here. Put a witch's hat on top of this young lady. So I'm using that watercolor set that I've shown a number of times on the stream. It's, you don't need to buy, like I've said before, the fancy elaborate things. You know, get a handle for the tool, like get a handle for working with watercolor before you spend $1 bazillion on a fancy, you know, package of it. You know, it's an interesting medium to try. It's, incorporate that into whatever your projects are. So this is a sienna that I'm using. It's a burnt sienna. And burnt sienna is one of the two big colors in the back. There's an ochre and a sienna back here. So by putting those values into the page, ideally should make those colors pop out of the back. And not just, you know, pull whatever the objects are that we're putting in the foreground into the back. We don't want that. There we go. So we got a little pumpkin in this guy's hands. I like the little animal head, like the animal masks. Those are cute. Unless you're on the island of Summer's Isle. You don't want to see that. Oh, it's a Halloween reference for you folks. If you're not sure what that's a Halloween reference of, well, have I got a treat for you. How do you make a difference between foreground and background, apart from using a line for foreground? I've talked about this before. I'll use a post-it. Okay, so if you've got your foreground, middle ground, and background, okay, if your foreground, let's say, has a really light value to it, okay, all right, so we'll put the three fences here, all right? Now, in order to push those two different background layers behind it, make sure that your middle ground is rooted behind your foreground imagery, okay? So that it doesn't cross over it. Or you know, like if you have this line here with the same as the top of the boards, then they're the same plane. If you have the second plane within that horizon line, that within that first plane, and as your marks come in that separate it from the foreground like so, the way that I'm doing it here is by using a really dark value. And so by pushing this back, some muted tones and some dark value, and I'm even going to do the sidewalk in this, you know, in this similar sort of way like we have over here, where it's just sort of muted out. When you do your, because this is so dark, when you do your third plane, in this case the house itself, okay, you want to have a middle grade. And so what I mean by that is if this is light, okay, so this is your light gray, and then the middle land is your really dark or like a black, then you want to have this as sort of in between, like a gray. Now, that's not the hard rule. And what I mean by that is it's transferable. You can switch it around. You can make, you know, the foreground to have lots of complicated information and detail. And it's all about all the textures and everything that's going on here, and drawing in the different panes of glass and so on and so forth. Okay. And then your middle ground, you can then either wash out with like a really basic line. Okay. And then the house or the environment, the background itself, you just take it right out. You know, maybe you can put some highlights through the windows, but other than that, you're just going to push it right back by darkening it out so much that it becomes, again, a sort of separated plane from the middle ground. We know that this is gray and complex, this is white and washed out, and this is heavily shadowed, almost black. And so there's a separation between your foreground plane, your midground plane, and your background plane. Notice that the plane still runs between or underneath the information that's in this foreground one. And because that sits, the house itself doesn't sit anywhere but behind that. It sort of lets us and peeks over this corner here. You know that this object is in front of this middle ground area, but at the same time, which is in front of the house. If you can put in lines that differentiate the placement of this, like in this receding lines that you see for the sidewalk, that brings it back to here, well, our automatic assumption as the human beings is that this is a path that's going that way. But if you use those three states and whatever variable combinations that you want to use, right, of black, white, and gray. Look at compositions that you enjoy and see if there is some combination therein, which gives you an insight into how they're separating the planes. Oftentimes, that's what you'll notice. And it helps to, you know, push these elements forward. It helps to push this element back, even though they're relatively similar in color, because of this deeper area in between and some of the highlights and things that I'm going to be putting on the pumpkin and the jack-o'-lantern and the lit up face inside. This is going to push this forward, or pull this forward, I'm sorry, and push this back in a more muted way. So now it becomes white, black, gray. Does that make sense? So in this image, as I'm doing these kids and their highlights on their little outfits and drawing them clear and distinct and visible as they're standing at a door asking for some candy. One of the things that we can do here, because we've got them in the complicatedness of their costumes with their varying colors and so forth, if we put some information up here, give me a second, bear with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a post right here. Now I'm thinking of the post, if that's hard to see, I'm thinking not just, oh, well, there's going to be a post behind the kids on the porch. Well, that post, we need to give it a little bit of dimension, right? And if there's a railing that runs on the front of the porch, and our frame is basically like at the doorway, and as we see these kids standing here, now, depending on where our frame cuts, we would see the top of the post as it holds up the roof, you know, and if our lines on the floor of the roof work like so, and then we're considering again the same factors, and here's our different rails for that. And then here's our continuing of our roof there. And just like these lines are going this way, those lines are going that way on the ceiling, right? Now, the part that makes it separate is that if we have these complex little images of these kids in the foreground that we're thinking of as we're drawing this, and their various costumes. Okay, and there's it's almost like a gray tone sitting in the very foreground. So we're pushing these kids forward from this washed out porch. But what we get to do next, and to push the background even farther, is allow yourself to consider drawing some trees in silhouette, some bushes. And as this tree moves across here, and another tree over there, it sort of pushes this environment, it coheses this environment into one plane, for one, even though those kids are far more complicated with detail than the porch area around it. But by pushing a separation with the silhouettes here, and then, of course, we can do this. And when we draw the street in behind, and we have the different houses that are all back on the opposite side of the street as these children are going from house to house with their trick-or-treating. So that grayed out information sits there as that third plane. So it's not like it has to be stacked. It's not like it has to be one plane stacked on top of the next. You can have the three planes almost running across the same span, but the difference is, what you're giving people is a way for you to separate what's going on the porch with what's going on the street by having these dark silhouetted trees popping across on the front lawn of the house. And because we understand how depth works and how perspective works, well, that's what that panel is going to look like. But because we understand how depth and perspective works innately in our heads, whether or not we're able to draw them or not, it just takes Carnegie Hall, practice. The idea that we're trying to put across in this is going to inform the viewer, it's going to inform the person who's reading the story a clear vision of where these kids are allocated in space. If you just draw kids in costumes, okay, it's kid in costume, it's cute, but it's a single note. If you draw a kid in a costume on the sidewalk, well, the assessment is from a North America perspective of trick-or-treating, or at least an American perspective, maybe in South America as well. I'm sorry, I'm misinformed, or uninformed. You see the kids walking with their bags along the sidewalk. The assumption is that they're going from house to house to house. If you see a kid sitting up on the porch holding the bag, that kid is at the door asking for candy. And depending on what you do with your lighting, and depending on what you do with your staging, is where you allow the emotional sense. If you place the camera so that you've got these little faces, looking up at you, looking up at the camera shooting down on them, so that we see some of the environment of the porch behind them, and then here's the doors. There's an emotional impact that resonates through something like that. It's the same scene, but by shifting the perspective from it. And then again, we're going to utilize the same tools where we've got this high contrast differentiation of what's going on in the posts. And then, of course, the values in between those posts. It's separating the two planes. But if we put this dark and foreboding front yard as it moves away from the front porch of the house, and you draw a small version of mom and dad as they're waiting out at the end of the sidewalk, as their kids have come up and vulnerably walked up to the front porch of someone else's house to ask for candy. You don't know, crazy maniacs inside or whatever. So mom and dad are way too far away to do anything for these kids. So there's a different emotional context that comes out from just a change of angle. You know, you can, conversely, if you switch the angle again and do it from an undershot so that the kids are, you know, you got the camera looking up at the kids and the kids are, you know, they got, let's see if I can do it in the camera, kind of a, you know, still smiling, but because of the different angle, there's a better sense of, oh, these little monsters, these little sneakers, you know, come to my front door and haranguing us for treats, you know. And it's just, again, it's an emotional thing. Like there's a great shot in The Shining where Jack Torrance is trapped in a cooler, and because he's in the cooler and we're looking down, or he's up above us and he's looking at the door of the cooler and he's got his hands resting and he's going, Wendy, you know, and he's trying to get out. Because we're beneath him, it's a power dynamic. If the camera is above, the assessment of power is greater than. If the camera is below, looking up at the subject, then the assessment of power is lesser than. It's a strange psychological thing, but it works. And so if you've got these kids and they're little in their hands, and you're still focusing on the same information here, but you're looking at it from the perspective of down below now than up above, and you get other different information elements in here as well with this up above shot, but because you can push the perspective farther back, you know, then when you've got the kids standing above you, you know, and they've got their masks on their faces, and you know, depending on what the mask is, if it's a smiley face, there's a sense of dread or something like that comes across. Whereas when you see you're looking down on it, it looks like a happy kid. But just that change in angle changes the tonality of the expression, right? So there's so many different things that you can do with the same shot, but by utilizing it, well, so how this would work is to cast shadows underneath. So because the shadows are all going to be down here and under the hands, this is again adding to that element of dread. It just gives it a very unnatural sense because these shadows aren't, you know, we generally don't think of these little kids in their costumes from this undercast perspective. And, you know, but so there's our intermediate. If you've got the porch here behind the little kid with its information and it's highly contrasty and overlit, you can even have the light bulb up above the kid, but then you just wash out the background entirely, right? And again, do the tree thing. And it changes the emotional resonance. And just, like I said from before, but it just enhances it. Right? So I hope those elements help. I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm sorry for that. Gary, thank you. Oh, thank you. That's a great weird shot in The Shining. A lot of the shots in The Shining are pure power dynamics. When there's shots of the Jack character at his typewriter and he's typing, watch where the camera is placed, because there's a conversation with the camera's placement where as he's sitting there and he's lost and he's losing himself, the camera's up there. The camera's an angle above him. You know, when he's typing and he's in his mania, the camera's down below and shooting up at him. You know, when and then the switch, the shift of it is when Wendy, there's a moment when Wendy has a baseball bat on the staircase and she feels threatened and frightened by her husband, who's a little unhinged. And as she's got the bat and she's upset, she's clearly vulnerable and exposed, even though she's above him in that scene, when we see him, it's the staging of where he is in the horizon line of the shot where he's, Wendy, give me the bat, right? And she's going, no. And the power dynamic changes, and it's all about the controlled movements at this point. It's a subtle shift, but it's one of those things that in story, we have a harder time depicting because we can't as readily depict the speed of the movement of a character in correlation to the speed of the movement with the character across the room. We tend to have to focus on steps of an action as opposed to just shot, 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 back and forth where somebody's going, come on, and the other one's going, la, 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 right? It's hard to transfer. But it's the same thing. There's a lot of the same underlying rules. Chris says, drawing a comic is like being a movie director, camera angles, movement, etc. I truly believe that writing and illustrating a story is pretty much wearing most hats on a movie set. It really is. I mean, there's things like sound and things like that that not necessarily as much, although you do have to utilize onomatopoeia and you've got your sound effects that are kicking in to describe sound, but that's still dependent on the viewer understanding that clack when you draw a picture of a guy with a gun and their hand is on the back of a thing and that goes, and maybe there's a couple of lines to denote that there's a movement like this on the gun, but the sound above it goes clack, and anybody that's ever seen a show where somebody goes clack with a gun pieces those elements together. But it's still highly dependent on the viewer. And, I like a storyboard for a movie. Storyboards for films can be really gorgeous things. They really can. They can be absolutely beautiful. And I've seen storyboards for films that are just horrible. They really are. The director just wants, he's not dependent on his storyboard for anything more so than just give me a sense of the scene and the actions. Somebody's got to walk across a room. The scene is in a bar, and they'll figure it out. And then you've got guys like Ridley Scott will draw his own storyboards. He's an artist, has an artist background, but he'll draw his own storyboards for things. And he'll work with a storyboard team, but he's quite capable of doing that. And there's a number of people that have that facility now. I have found Scott McCloud's book useful to understand comic dynamics. I think it is and it isn't. It is if you have the ability to have an analytical mind towards stuff. I've got them both up here, Understanding and Making Comics, the two books. And they're both, so here they are. There's Understanding, and then there's Making, the sequel to it. Because apparently he didn't cover enough of everything in this, and he had to be more verbose in the second one. Look at how heavily text-laden that can be. It's good if you have the facility to be able to comprehend all the analytical aspect of how he takes it stage by stage by stage by stage, but not everybody does. So the DC books that were put out, like here's one. This is the DC Comics Guide to Creating Comics. I'll put it under here. What am I doing? Okay, Inside the Art of Visual Storytelling. Carl Potts wrote this. And Carl Potts knows what he's talking about. ISBN 978-0-385-34472-2. And he walks you through every aspect of it. But he does so in, suggesting the basic key components of it. And then, as I like to do, encouraging experimentation. But this is a good place to start. This is a great way to start is on levels like this. And once you get a gist of it, or once you've read enough of these things, then read the McCloud books. Because before that, I think it overcomplicates things for people. But I do find that generally people that don't write and illustrate books will read the McCloud book and go, got it. Because they're not pursuing, well, how do I just make this? Just tell me how to make this. Because I don't think that that makes that easily, readily available to people. Whereas the book that I've shown numerous times here on the stream, Will Eisner's book, sequential art. Here's the Poorhouse Press one. Expanded edition. This is the greatest thing ever made. This thing, while it's dated and while some of its examples and references are a little behind the days, he takes you piece by piece through all of these elements that MacLeod talks about. But he does so in a way that better facilitates the artist-writer to utilize. Just because it's intermediate complexity, like it's challenging. I got no problem with the MacLeod books. I just think that they're rough for people to come and read out of the gate, unless you have that kind of mind that can take that information and do something with it. Anyway, so here's all these different ways of approaching the same image of kids standing in front of the porch. Now you can see the choice that I made, and the angle and the perspective that I've chosen is still not the same as this. This is far more wide open, a shot, but this is me just trying to identify for you the whole of the whole of the scene. I mean, if you had a camera for this, what would be really fun is to push that viewpoint, right? You could have a camera situated over here, all right? And if this is the door frame here, from here to here, but there's a window right here, you could have the camera shoot this shot here of these kids through the window and then turn and face the person standing at the door and then move in an angle so that it's an upshot over the shoulder of this guy at the door. And then we look down and see these kids in this way. And I mean, if you look at that from the film perspective, then, you've moved to the scary guy and over their shoulder down to the kids. Or depending on lighting and depending on tonality and depending on, a nicer atmosphere, you have the camera show them, oh, look at the lady and the man at the door going, oh, look at these lovely kids. What are you dressed up as? And as the camera pans and over them, you see these little kids looking up, and they're cute little angels looking up like cherubim, because you're looking down at the kids, and you go, oh, there they are, little cute things. So there's a bazillion ways that we can imply all kinds of different elements when illustrating a single scene. But studying films and studying descriptions in books, like if you'll read a fun book, Laurie likes Maeve Binchy and Jan Karan, and both of these people have a lovely ability to describe elements in a scene where the two boys, come up to the door, dressed in burlap sacks as they look up to emulate, the peasantry of medieval, Ireland, and here they are trying to push this North American tradition of Halloween, in this small Irish village. And like, what are you here for? Just some sort of silly moment like that of kids with grease paint on their face and describing those elements of grease paint. And, you can just get so much out of understanding different ways to look at the same scenario that way. If you look at a Canadian Tire, we have Canadian Tire here, or some sort of department store Christmas ads, where it'll be, the camera pulls in on this couple opening a door, and there's some carolers outside. Oh, they're lovely, aren't they? And it's the holiday season, or whatever the commercial is. But then you look at something like there's a person in a farmhouse and they're remote and they're isolated, but somebody's pounding on their door, and so the person going up to the door and looking out the window, there'll be a different tonal value. It's the same, and you do the same shots, the exact same shots, completely different meaning depending on the lighting, depending on speed, depending on whatever the expressions are, if there's music, if there's, So there's a lot of elements that, you don't do in comics that you can implement, like some of those last things I've just described. But what we can do is consider these things when constructing a scene. And a lot of it helps to consider breaking not just the perspective and all those other elements, but think about separating the planes in your image and with these three things specifically. Before I forget, we've got two suggestions. Red Cross is one, costumes is another. If anybody has a third suggestion for our 3-prompt Tuesday for me to incorporate, let me know, and we'll write that down for our third thing. So yeah, so me scribbling on all these little Post-its, I don't know if that helps anybody, but it's just different ways of changing our environment by looking at it as three separate planes, and how those three separate planes and the placement of them. Miriam, you already said Red Cross. Or you want to change your Red Cross to boat? We got to give somebody else a chance. But thank you, though. Maybe I wrote Red Cross and you're trying to say something else. But if you want me to switch it to boat, I will. It makes no difference to me. But think of those things. Think of what you can do with these three planes. And so try that. Even if it's just opening up a random book. Do I have a book beside me when I need it? Where's Brian Hitch? This is Brian Hitch's way to do it. And again, he talks about the different elements and aspects of the scene. Okay, here's Brian. Look at that. Look what Brian's doing here. See, the crazy destruction in the foreground is a lot of information, kind of like gray lines, and a lot of intermediate values. And then there's a darkening out into shadow for the buildings in the background. Sorry, there's a bit of a, there, you can see it better. Okay. But in between these two planes, even though they're not flat static planes, because this is receding this way, this one's receding this way. Here's this enlightened area because we want to draw our focus to those four characters in this scenario. So that's another utilizing of the same principle. Here is another one. Lots of complicated business right here, right? And then, but here's this light area in the center. There's this Captain America beating people up. In the foreground, we got these other heroes beating people up. But notice that there's shadows in the ceiling line, and these last guys that are rushing towards the center plane, these guys are all in shadow back here. So that pushes them back into the third plane again. And so you'll see so many examples of this. Okay, here's a strange one, but a good one, just the same. This is a hitch panel. Captain America has jumped out of this helicopter. Now, here is the helicopter. Here is Captain America. It's harder to judge this panel because of the text in the dark border around it. But when we look at it in this regard, he stands out better off of the light midground. Gray, white, black. Right? So, that's all good fun. It's all good fun in the sun. Oh. This is said, please. Hello? Yeah, I love you. What's up? Oh, your suggestion is boat. Okay. All right. I didn't know you were watching. All right. I'll write that down. Thanks, bud. Oh, I didn't type it. Okay. My son just called me to tell me that his suggestion is boat. So now we can do Red Cross and boat. Turkey. You're a turkey, Josh. Okay. All right. So there we go. We got our 3 words. So I hope this has helped, and I hope that some of these examples I've showed you make some sense of it. But you should, like, look here, we've got the dark foreground. Whoops, let me move it here. We got a dark foreground, gray midground, recedes into the white. So, lots and lots of fun. Here we go. Darker, lighter, washed right out in the background. So, yeah. Lots of different examples. That's another good one to look for, by the way, is Brian Hitch's book. It's got an ISBN number of 978-1-6006-1327-2. Okay. All right. Well, we got our 3 words for today. That's great. Costumes, Red Cross, and a boat. Okay, so here's the little kids coming up in their costumes. We used to have a thing here in Canada where kids would go around with a little box, and this little box, I can't remember what it was for, but in addition to the trick-or-treating part, these little kids would come around with a little box, and people at each house would put some change in it, and those kids would bring it back to school the next school day. And all of that money would be collected. I think it was for March of Dimes or something, but all of those monies would be collected from the kids in the class and the kids at the school, and would be given to help this charitable organization. It was just another way to engage kids in the idea that they need to actively consider about doing things for others. So, but they don't do it anymore because kids were getting beat up and having their money stolen from them, or kids were just taking the money, or, it's unfortunate. But I always thought that was a really fun, cool thing. So I could have incorporated that as money raised for the Red Cross. But we'll get the Red Cross in there, don't worry. And maybe we'll have a kid dressed up as a boat. I don't know. Or, I don't know. I'm going to have some fun with it anyways. I don't want to give away all the secrets during the stream. So I hope that these things have helped. And I know it starts with a simple explanation and I go crazy, but yeah, there's so much that you can do with complexity in a panel when you just start from thinking along this principle, that it empowers you to really push your visual storytelling. And that's important, that's fun, and that's challenging, and that's the sort of stuff that we want it to be. When you see the spooky path, and then you see the dark silhouette of the house, and a couple of trees or stuff like that, and there's the moon in the sky, you don't even realize that there's a separation of planes that are happening in an image, but sneaky. Chris says, gotta go around. We'll see you around. Bye. Have a great day, Chris. Thanks for coming and hanging out. November 2nd, Miriam will be, this Thursday, Miriam will be on Chris's channel at 12 o'clock EST. I think it's EST, they said. If not, please correct me. And the ladies will be working together. And Miriam said to stop on by. I'll see if I can do that. But that'll be a lot of fun. And then Chris will be here on the stream with us on Monday the 20th as well. The day before one of my kids has his birthday. Super cool Josh guy. So there's lots of fun stuff coming up. We had a good time having Tristan here on the stream with us on Friday. Thursday. Friday. It was Friday. Where am I today? So that was good fun. I hope people got a chance to take a look at what she's starting to post, and happy she's working on her first book. So, okay, well, so you see where we're going here with. We've got our 3 suggestions. You can see where I've started with the page. Every time I try to hold it up, it washes it out. and takes the range out of it just because of how bright it is above there. So unfortunately, I can't show you the whole of that. But I'm going to put the pumpkin face on this and get this spooky bugger done. And we'll have this posted for tomorrow. And good fun in the sun for all. And, you know, I hope anybody that's going out and doing Halloween has a safe and happy time for themselves and their loved ones. You know, it can be a fun holiday. I mean, you know, it's a fun tradition, but at the same time, it can be, everybody's got to be safe. Okay, well, I think I'm going to sign off for now. I'll leave this up here for a second in case anybody wants to freeze frame that if they need to utilize those notes. But for whenever. So in the meantime, I will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. And, oh, I'm so sorry. I promised to show you the Corbin video. For those that joined us late, here is our new Corbin video. Corbin says good afternoon as well. Anything else you want to tell him? Yeah, he hopes you're having a good day. Okay, let's switch to the old Kambarooski. Hey, look at us. What are you doing? Can you see him? Corbin and I are sitting in the studio hanging out, ready to get some work done. And how was your weekend? Did you have a good one? Yeah, he said it's all right. That's good. That's nice to hear. What did we do this weekend? I think his moving around is in order to signal that we moved the house around. No? Okay. Well, all right. There we go. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody that came out today. I hope you have a great day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.